weather is kind of bad. So we were just discussing and kind of comparing the job market here in Germany, and we were comparing it to Canada. So today I have a guest with me who is actually from Canada. He grew up in Canada. He has quite a good job experience in Canada, and he moved to Germany around 2 years ago. So he also has some experience, job experience of here in Germany as well. So I, being in Germany, I also have some insights regarding the job market here in Germany. So today in this video we will be trying to compare the job market here in Germany versus Canada. So the first thing everyone asks me about Germany is, it like, if we don't speak German, if we don't know the language, is it really possible to get a job here? So in one word, yes, it is possible. I have a lot of friends who actually found a job while they were in Pakistan. They applied for a job here and then they moved here based on the job. So yes, it is possible. But it's also a little bit difficult when you're not from a technical field. So it's a little bit tricky. So if you're from a technical field, for example, someone in IT, someone doing something software related, anything technical, for example, engineering, hardware, these fields are quite easier because here you don't really need German language. But there are also other fields, for example, when we talk about the jobs in the management field, there you need to speak with people, you need to be in touch with the customers. So there you will surely need German. So I would highly recommend, if there's someone who wants to apply from Pakistan, he should at least know some German. Or when you're already here, maybe try to work on it. Yeah, so hi Ali, and thank you so much for doing this with me. I think one of the most frequently asked questions about Canada is that if I don't have a degree, can I move to Canada and can I just get a job there?
So there's actually a few different ways to immigrate to Canada. It's not always that you have to have a degree to move to Canada. So you can move as an investor if you have a lot of money. You can move through a family sponsorship. For example, if you already have family in Canada, they can sponsor you. Of course, you have to be directly related to whoever's sponsoring you. It cannot be like a really, like a relationship that is really, really far from like your immediate family. Also, you can move to Canada if your employer is willing to sponsor you. That is a little bit more difficult because employers, they don't like to go through that process, but it is possible if you work for a Canadian company or you work for a company that already has a branch in Canada. So those are a few ways that you can move to Canada without having a bachelor's degree. Also, just because if you do have a bachelor's degree doesn't mean that you can just move to Canada. The Canadian immigration system is a points-based system. So what the type of degree that you have, the education that you have, the work experience that you have, your age, all of that corresponds to points. And then those points are added up in such a way that Immigration Canada calculates, are you a suitable candidate to move to Canada?
Okay, yeah, I understand. So I've also heard that if I have a master's degree and if I apply for a job in Canada from here, like for example from Germany, and I get it, and when I move there I can directly move on PR.
Yes, so that is true. Most of the times if you haven't been sponsored by your company and you're immigrating purely on a points-based system, then the minute you land in Canada, you're automatically a permanent resident.
Okay, so my next question is, because you have experience in Canada and Germany as well, so if you have to really compare the work-life balance, like the environment or the working experience, how would you compare it? Like, how would you measure it?
Each country has its pros and cons. So for example, Germany, I feel, has a better work-life balance but Canada, it's easier to progress like to a higher level, like in your career. For example, people, you know, they move up really quick. Like if you show that you're a hard worker and you show you take the initiative and you're learning really fast, it is very easy to move up in your career in Canada. But Canada is also a little bit more, I would say, competitive. There are a lot of people fighting for the same job. So the work-life balance is better in Germany. For example, in Germany, the minimum required, amount of holidays an employee gets is 25 days. Where in Canada, there is no legal mandate, but the average is 10 days of vacation a year. Or
10 days? I will never move.
Yeah, so some companies, of course, you know, like if you have worked for a company for many years, then of course every few years they add 5 extra days. So if you want to get to a point where you have 25 to 30 days, you would have to be working for the company for at least 20 years.
Okay. That doesn't make sense, but yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true.
So Germany is a little bit better in that regard. Work-life balance, you know, they have the Feierabend here, like people really care about their time off from work. In Canada, if you don't show you don't show that enthusiasm that you want to work for the company, it's very easy to get, you know, substituted by another worker. A lot of Canadians, they work overtime. A lot of Canadians also have second jobs, part-time jobs. So I would say the work-life balance, what I feel is better in Germany.
I think the next question is more about the tax system. Like in Germany, we pay a lot of taxes. It feels like we give half of the money to the government, but how is it in Canada in terms of taxes?
So every province has its own income tax system. There's, of course, the federal tax. Every Canadian who works in Canada has to pay the federal tax. But every province has its own additional provincial income tax. Each province is different. For example, Alberta, where I'm from, there's a flat rate tax of 10%. At least that's what it was when I was there last. Some other provinces have a little bit of a higher tax rate. Some provinces have a little bit of a lower tax rate. For example, some of the northern territories. So Canada is made up of 10 provinces and 3 territories. The 3 territories are the northernmost areas of Canada. They're very sparsely populated, and the government is encouraging people to move there. So when you move there, you get even more tax incentives, like you get a northern living allowance. So I would say the Canadian tax system is a little bit more attractive to working people because there's a lot of ways to reduce your overall income tax by choosing where you want to live, by investing in your own retirement funds. There's many things you can do to save on taxes, reduce your taxes. In Germany too, I would say the taxes are comparable to Canada, but it's just a little bit higher. But I don't think it's that much of a big difference, like maybe a few percent overall.
So the next question, most important question actually, is about how much you can earn either in Germany or in Canada. I don't know about Canada, but in Germany it's if I say on average, including everything, I would say on average a person can earn around 45,000 euros a year. But it varies when you go from one profession to the other, when you go from being a teacher to an engineer or to a lawyer. I can only speak mainly about the engineering field. So as an engineer or in the IT, The range is around, it starts around 50,000 euros a year until it can go up to 70 to 80,000 euros a year. But then of course it also depends on the experience. The more experience you have, the higher degree you have, more you will earn. So on average, if you just come out of the university after your master's degree, the minimum you can expect is around 50,000 euros.
So now I'm going to talk about how much you can earn in Canada. So in Canada, like the average Canadian makes about $50,000 to $55,000 a year. You know, that's across the board. Like it includes all occupations. Basically, it's just like an average, right? But there are some occupations where you earn more, of course, and then there are some occupations that you earn less. So for example, the minimum wage in Canada is around $15 an hour. But someone in the IT sector, someone who's a software engineer, or someone who's technically inclined, they would make about, I would say, minimum $60,000 a year. Again, that depends. Which company you work for, what is your background, how many years of experience you have. But if you are someone with a bachelor's degree, just right out of school, you could expect to earn about $60,000 a year.
I just have one question regarding this salary range that you just mentioned. So in Germany, it also depends what kind of a degree you have. So for example, there's one person with a bachelor's degree, there's one person with a master's, one person with a PhD. So all of us will actually start on a different level in terms of the base salary, or the main initial offer you get. So is it also similar in Canada that the higher degree you have, the more you will earn as your starting salary? How is it?
So one thing I definitely want to clarify is that in Canada, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a master's, you'll make more money, because the primary requirement of any employer is to see how much experience you have. So in Canada, for example, a lot of the engineering positions, they start out with someone who is called an EIT, and engineering and training. For you to start out in that position, a bachelor's degree is sufficient. Many people who do masters or PhD purely do it to pursue academia or research in the private field. Of course, you could make a lot of money in that, but those kind of jobs, I would say, are very rare in Canada, because it's sad to say, but Canada does not invest a lot of money into R&D. They are very good at doing research in very selected things, but they're nowhere as you cannot compare how much money they put into R&D compared to like what Germany puts, the amount of money Germany puts into R&D. So of course, if you have some kind of a special master's or a PhD and you find a job in a company that requires that, you would be making more money. But I would say 90% of the times, a bachelor's degree is sufficient for applying to Canadian jobs.
So just on a lighter note, this is something you can do in Germany, whether where you just go to a package station on a Sunday and get your package. This you cannot do in Canada. Is that right?
I think you can do it in bigger cities, but it's very specific to Amazon. Amazon has created their own lockers.
But it's not common, right? That's what I want to say. Like here,
common, yeah.
This is a very small town part in Germany, so you would find these everywhere, especially next to all the stores. Like this is a store, so you would find them everywhere. It's very convenient, very easy. All you need is a code, and then you can get your package anytime, any day.